Commissioners present.
Missing one.
Oh,
Bring her
oh,
off. Make
no,
her bring
never
her off.
mind. Yep, we're missing one. Okay. She'll be here. She's just too late. All right, and I've asked Commissioner Rowley to give our opening prayer, so.
Our dear, kind, loving Father in heaven, Father, as we bow our heads this beautiful evening, we're so grateful for the chance we have to gather to give back and to serve our community. Thankful for this time of year to remember the birth of our Savior and friend, Jesus Christ. We pray that we may become more like him. Father, please bless Payson City, help it to prosper and help us to make wise decisions concerning its future. Help us to be kind and cordial with one another and everyone we interact with. We pray for thy spirit at this time and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, next one is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Actually, because this meeting wasn't properly noticed, let's do that next time.
Okay, we'll just table that till next time. Yeah. So public forum, this is, we actually have public, it's cool. People like to address about anything not on the agenda. It's a work session, but we don't have anybody online either, do we? Okay, so we'll just move right into the work session. So this is accessory dwelling units and moderate income housing. Guess you got the presentation, Robert.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so I am anticipating that this will not be a long meeting. But
Do you want us to change that or?
I'm hoping that we will
Relative-
stick with that.
Relative to what?
Relative to, yeah. With some of the ones that we've had previously. What we want to do tonight. There's a chair up there.
I've got bubbles here, so she can.
So what we want to do tonight is have a little discussion. Most of you know that we have a moderate income housing report that is submitted every year. Moderate income housing, just as a little refresher, is anything that basically it's about moderate income housing is housing that is affordable to households making 80% of area median income. And so that fluctuates depending on your household size and where you're living. Area median income for Utah County, which is it's calculated in the county, not by cities, is about $92,000 per year.
Robert, did you see how that compared to surrounding counties at all?
Utah County's area median income is greater than the state. Some counties are higher than us. But Summit County is obviously the highest in the state. I think Emory County, where I am from, is the lowest. But the reason why that becomes important and the reason why we're having this discussion tonight is as part of that moderate income housing report, we have to choose different strategies from kind of a long menu of different ones. One of the ones that Payson City chose for our moderate income housing plan is talking about accessory dwelling units and more access to them. Tonight, we're going to talk about how that has, where my slides are tonight. Okay. How that's evolved in Payson over time and where we're maybe going, maybe not. So what we're talking about tonight is not a mandate. We're just having a discussion about it. We had this same discussion with the city council last week and got some good input, some good direction, but we want to have your input as well as we move forward. So an accessory dwelling unit, for those of you who don't know, in the state of Utah, the state legislature, you can see up in 2021, legislation that allows all single-family dwellings on properties 6,000 square feet and above. That's the lot size, not the house size. The lot size, they can have what's called an internal accessory dwelling unit. That was passed universally by the state legislature. Payson City was actually already compliant with that. We've had the allowability of internal accessory dwelling units for a number of years. But this just expanded that statewide.
So 6,000 square feet is the minimum for an internal.
So one of our strategies was to create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached accessory dwelling units in residential zones. So we already allow them internally in residential zones, but what we need to do is just have a conversation about the idea of detached accessory dwelling units. Detached meaning detached from the single family home, detached from the property line. So essentially, a small dwelling in a small accessory dwelling in an accessory structure. Okay. Payson City does not currently allow that. Some cities do allow that, some cities do not. What we're going to have a conversation about is if we were to do that, what would be some of the requirements? Is this even a possibility? Okay, so part of our strategy states that we're going to evaluate the requirements necessary to allow those in residential zones. So things that we're going to be talking about tonight, and this is just kind of a slide that shows you the different types of ADUs. That's the short acronym for them. Up on the top left, you can see that that is a standalone detached unit. That is currently not allowed in Payson City. The one on the top right that's built over a garage, that's like if you had a detached garage, that is not allowed in Payson City right now. The bottom two you can do in Payson City right now because they're part of the structure, the single family dwelling. Okay. So change the word council to commission. And what we want to talk about tonight are setbacks. So accessory structures are allowed in front setbacks, and they have to be at least 5 feet from the side or rear property lines. Is this appropriate? Building height, they cannot, accessory structures can't exceed 18 feet. And so that could be really difficult to build over a garage. If we said we wanted to allow an accessory dwelling unit to be detached from the home, the possibility of it being built over a detached garage would probably be pretty limited by that 18-foot rule.
Could we add language that if it was above a garage, that 18 feet height is waived?
And we could change it. Yes, we can. It's our code. We can make it say whatever we want. Right? That's a really good. We could make that as an exception if you're doing a dwelling or something like that. Parking. Currently, for single family detached homes, you have to have 2 parking stalls. If it's part of a subdivision, those 2 stalls have to be in a garage. If you have an internal accessory dwelling unit, you have to have 3 off-street parking stalls. Okay. If you converted your garage into an accessory dwelling right now, you would have to replace those parking spots, those off-street parking spots, in another garage. Like you'd have to build a detached garage or add on additionally or something like that. So just because you're adding an accessory dwelling unit doesn't mean that you can't, that you get a pass to not comply with the rest of our. So for internal ones, we require 3. Would we need more parking, off-street parking stalls? That's something to consider. The size, I've been in lots of discussions about the size of accessory dwelling units, meaning how big should they be? Lots of people are really concerned that, are you just going to have a whole nother separate house on your lot? What are the impacts to these. I've seen some communities that limit them to 2 bedrooms. I've seen other communities say they have to be no larger than 1,200 square feet. Currently, the way that we tackle dwellings, so they're not so huge on a site, and any additional accessory structures on a site is using lot coverage. Lot coverage is how much of your lot you can actually build on. Currently, our ordinance says that the maximum lot coverage could be 40 to 50%, depending on the lot size. I think it's, if your lot is smaller than 10,000, is that right? Then it's the 50%.
Yes, because I think R19 allows 50.
Yeah. And if you have a larger lot, then it's 45 or 40. Question.
Has any county or city that's attacked this already been bold enough to say it can't be an Airbnb?
Yes. So Airbnbs are called short-term rental units. Payson's currently doesn't allow for short-term rental units. The law is a little bit unclear on that. I started my career in Hawaii, and short-term rental units are a big deal in Hawaii and many other places, right? There's always a way to get around lots of different types of things, but a short-term rental is generally considered a leasable space less than 30 days. Long-term rental, what we would normally consider a rental unit, has to exceed 30 days. So,
There's a precedent.
one thing that I wanted to talk about with the size, though, and I think that this is something that we'll bring back to you as well. Currently Payson City Ordinance, and I have forgotten about this, but currently Payson City Ordinance actually counts lot coverage as any hard surface. Customarily, lot coverage is anything under roof. So if you have your house is under a roof, if you had like a detached garage or like a covered patio or something like that, that's under roof, and that's generally counted as towards your maximum lot coverage. In Payson, if you had like your driveway counts for that, towards that, and your back patio or your basketball hoop and stuff like that. To be honest, I think that's not a wise way to do things. That's this is just me, Robert, speaking. In my professional opinion, I think that's an underutilization of people's property. But we can have that discussion on another day. So now I just want to go to thoughts. So let's start at the beginning. So setbacks. And again, this is just in the scenario of what you think would be appropriate if we were to go down this road. And then we can have the discussion at the end of, is this a good idea that we should pursue? Or is this...
Just go around the room, just start. Do you have, we'll just take turns, comments here, or?
I definitely think not in the front. I mean, I like what this is said.
Okay.
Nothing in front of it.
Isn't the, if I have a shed, a garage, there's 5 feet setback for that?
Yes.
It ought to be the same.
So I'll just interject and feel free. This doesn't have to be it's your turn. We're just going to have a conversation and a discussion. Right? When we talked to the city council about this last week, they suggested maybe even if we did this, that the setback would be 10 feet from the property line.
Front setback.
The side
From all
My thought, if it's gonna be a dwelling, it should be the same setback as your house. So if that's 10 feet, 15 feet, if you're gonna use it for a dwelling, then it should have the same setback as your dwelling could have off of that.
That large of a setback would definitely limit who could,
That would basically eliminate
most of them.
most of them, if we were to do that.
Yeah.
Be-
so I think
because
that's a big
In the
setback.
event of emergency or whatever else, now you have a dwelling that you're driving over or pushing over and not a shed. So,
So kind of going along with that
Mhm.
question, we've got in the older part of the community, we've got a lot of lots that are 75 feet on the front and 200 million.
Right.
You know, are we gonna allow more than one of these?
No, well, that's up to you, but customarily, if it's a single family residential zone, that means that you can only have one single family dwelling on the lot. An accessory dwelling is not considered a separate single family residence. And the reason being is because in order to have an accessory dwelling unit, the owner has to occupy the dwelling on the site. You can't rent both. So if you had a home similar to the one that you're describing, and you have this huge big yard, that's where I think it comes down to size of how would we limit these at all? But you could only have one. Currently, as our code would
And it
interpret,
has to be owner occupied.
it does have to be.
Well, I can have my kids stay there, but I can't rent it out as a.
That's right.
You could rent the accessory apartment.
But not the main.
Right, not the main home.
But then it still comes.
But we
down
could
to
change that.
enforceability, which is what the ordinances come down to.
And occupancy is one of the hardest things to enforce. It is. Yes.
Can you go back to the definition, of the accessory dwelling unit? Because my concern, and I prosecute it quite frequently, is people that park their campers or RVs and have kids, friends, family living in it. Because we have statutes that say RV, it's called RV fit for human habitation or something, that's not allowed. And I don't want it to be like, oh, it's my accessory dwelling.
Well, generally, it would have to follow the rules of an accessory structure.
Okay.
Can't have wheels.
It
Yeah,
has to be on a foundation.
and all other cases where people are letting almost people camp in their front, side, backyard. I don't want to be able to say, oh, it's my accessory dwelling unit.
Home intent does not count.
Yeah, you're
Just
still,
making sure that that's it.
Home intent does not count.
yeah, you're still covered.
What about, if the homeowner wants to live in the accessory unit and rent out
the
their
home.
main home?
so as long as the owner's on site,
How does this measure up against the flag lot idea that we have dealt with so many times, where somebody wanted to put a house in the middle of the block, and so they do one escapes, we've got a conditional use or something to get to be able to put a house in the backyard.
So they can subdivide that and actually do that. The rules would still, I mean, they still have to abide by the setbacks that are on that lot and so that's the reality, is that sometimes the geography and the geometry of a lot and the placement of the house or those types of things actually in and of itself limit a lot of the possibility of this. So
What are the nearby cities that have approved ADUs? Do you know?
Springville actually allows
Springville, okay.
accessory dwelling units. A couple years ago, it was a big deal, right? Like it was constantly in the news. Like the state legislature thought that this was the silver bullet of solving all of our housing crisis issues, right? The reality is that even if they're available, accessory dwelling units aren't utilized as much as they probably could be. I could put one on my property tomorrow. I can't afford to put one on my property tomorrow, but I could do it. And I think that's the reality of a lot of folks, right? I think that it should be probably part of the discussion on housing and housing affordability, because really it does a couple things. And I'm gonna take off my neutral hat for just 1 second and say, I actually really like the idea of detached accessory dwelling units for 2 reasons. The first is it allows the homeowner a large amount of versatility, because today I was in a meeting, well, I was listening to a webinar, and one of the slides came up that said, in quarter 2 of 2023, in order to afford the mortgage for a median priced home in the Wasatch Front, your household has to make a minimum of $150,000 a year. For those of you in this room that have that, bless you, my power to you. I don't know what that's like. And so it allows home ownership feasibility for those that might not have that opportunity, because they can supplement that astronomical mortgage with a rent payment, right? Which does a couple things. It allows somebody to actually get into a house and own one, and then it provides an additional rental unit that's generally in the more moderate range.
I think that's more common now as young couples buying a house and then renting out rooms in the basement or rooms in the house. 2 or 3 people at $500 a piece, shared spaces. And that's kind of the reality of the cost, talking about remote units, placed in the yard. I think there needs to be a restriction on square footage. I think it needs to be limited to lot size has to be over this many square feet, and also has to lot coverage has to be allow for the unit to be put on there, because reality is to build one, you're still going to have to run separate sewer, separate water, separate gas.
But that's all the same meter, right? They're not allowed to have
They can't have a separate.
they can't do separate meter.
Well,
But you-
even an internal one right now can have a separate meter.
Right.
Most likely, if we were to allow it, that detached,
They
they
would
would.
be required to attach to city utility, so they
Mhm.
wouldn't have septic tanks.
Yeah, you could do a composting toilet. But that really brings me to my second point of why I like the detached one, because it allows a greater deal of versatility for the folks who own the property. Because currently the way that we have it, it's attached to your house. And that means you're either probably giving up your basement or giving up a space in your home, right? And so the only way that you can expand your home then as your family grows or changes and whatever is to leave that neighborhood and to leave that house, or to completely take over the unit.
Right.
When it's detached, it gives a little bit more versatility to say that's that space out there, and we get the entire use of the dwelling. So there are a couple different advantages. I will say that detached units, there's more propensity, most likely, to have 2 renters on a lot. Those are things that we have to deal with. Does this happen? Probably already. Probably yes. I'm sure that we could go actually look and find some spaces in Payson City where this is occurring already. Just like every other thing that we talk about, right? Whether it's shipping containers or whatever it is. We know what's happening. That's why we're talking.
So, 20 years ago or so, when I built my home, there were certain zones in the city where you could not have an apartment. You were not allowed to have. Is that still the case?
As in,
We wanted to put a basement apartment in and rent it out, and we were told that it was not compatible with that.
20 years ago, that was the case. If you were to do it now, that's not the case. You could do it.
Yeah, we're doing.
Just a few ideas and concerns I have. It can offset the mortgage for someone if they are able to rent that accessory dwelling unit out. But the thing we need to remember is you have a single family house that's already $600,000 an average home. And then we add another accessory dwelling unit behind it, that ups the price even more, making it a little more unobtainable for certain people to qualify for mortgages for single family homes, because now you have to buy the house and the extra house behind it.
And sometimes you even have to buy the possibility.
Yes.
That you can.
And so it could actually make it more unaffordable. So that's my big fear.
yin to the yang.
And I think we definitely should limit it to square footage. I think we should do some sort of formula that you can have up to so many square foot by how big your lot is. The smaller the lot is, the smaller the accessory dwelling unit you have. And then the bigger lot you have, we go up to 1,100 square feet max. I know Utah County Unincorporated does 1,200 square feet for an ADU. You have to share septic and that, but I know, and it's a balancing act. I don't know if I'm sold on it or not yet. I don't know.
And that's sort of
And for
You
that,
know, that, like I said, the other realities of it is that they come in like, I probably have enough lot to put in an accessory dwelling there, but then the reality I've got is realistically, my sewer water runs right down the middle of the house off the street to there. And so you're gonna have to either start there and around, or all new connections from the street out. And so
we
you know, all those
guarantee
things
jobs,
come with a cost, and cha-ching, cha-ching, you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
upfront, yeah, all the upfront stuff.
And I think that's kind of the reality that it is sinking in. You know, I think the legislature thought, oh, this will be such an
Oh,
easy
yeah.
way, you know, get them done so quick. And
They
we'll
should
do
have
all
brought
this
it
stuff.
before
Well,
You're on your way to legislator. Go ahead, take care of that.
Whatever Governor Cox is saying, right, as far as the money that he wants to have for these however many dwellings and stuff like that, we know that these aren't accessory dwelling units, but they are however many houses that he wants to see
Well,
up inside.
or realistically, you know, if this was in place and you was gonna build a new home and you wanted an accessory dwelling, detached from your house, and planned that and build it along with your other house, so, you know, it was seamless. But like I said, me personally, to go in and do it, I got a 20-foot wide driveway that runs the whole length of the yard, so gotta dig it. I mean, you know, quite a.
So you're exactly right. Like ideally, the homes that are being constructed would be much better prepared to take advantage of all of these things. Even if they maybe didn't add it at the time, but they could plan for it to say, I'm gonna put my house on this side, have an extra wide space over on this side, so the access is there. And even internally, I mean, I think that a lot of even builders are now putting the basement so it could easily be converted at a future date, right? There's an easy exterior access that's already built into the dwelling itself. And so we're actually seeing that kind of shift. But the retrofitting.
And Steve,
becomes a
if
little
that
bit
could
harder.
incentivize developers to do bigger lots, that'd be something to think about.
This was gonna say, my uncle in Vegas in his neighborhood, because they can't do much with the yard, all the developers now on these higher end homes it's the home in a casita.
Yep.
They call it for the mother-in-law, whoever.
Yeah.
So it's always, oh, the house includes a casita. And it's always usually in the front yard. And so, I mean, maybe it would incentivize more higher end developers to make that instead of
I don't know.
So in the Riverwoods, most every home in the Riverwoods has a detached accessory dwelling,
Yes.
which is really interesting. But they have huge lots, most of them, and the money to build it. So they do. And a lot of them actually provide it for like a kid that's in college or whatever. But then it's a really easy way to age in place. So because when I'm 80, I don't want to be taking care of, a 4,000 square foot house. When I'm 40 right now, I don't want to be taking care of a 4,000 square foot house. But we might need the space now, but then that couple can still stay in their neighborhood, or that one person can still stay in the neighborhood that they've established really great relationships in. But then they move to the accessory dwelling and then rent out the large portion of their house. So, yeah, there's several different ways.
I
for
love
doing
that, that Kepe brought up the short-term rental.
Well, because then I just think about Hawaiian, everywhere in Hawaii. That's exactly what they did, is in order to justify the excessive amount of what they're paying, so they can have the beach right there. They make these accessory dwellings and just create them as Airbnbs.
I just don't know if in Payson, I don't know if short-term rentals is a good idea.
Except for maybe in 2034, right? In 2034.
So I
right,
don't like the idea of everyone having a short-term rental in their
Sure,
backyard.
me
but
neither. That's
a great,
Yeah.
great point.
Although I do have to say, if it was owner occupied, I would feel better about it than if it was just rent.
right,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Well,
if
yeah.
you're renting a short-term unit that's owner occupied, I'd
Right.
feel a whole lot better
See-
about that.
See, because that discussion will come up in 2034 when the Olympics are here, and everybody's gonna say, well, now I need one. Get going.
And I think that really is a good discussion that we should have sometime. Payson currently has one hotel. Right? We have branded ourselves as Home to Adventure. And we have been touting the fact that we are the gateway to the scenic byway and all of these different outdoor activities. And we put a lot of effort into getting people to come.
Nowhere to
And the
stay.
way that you get the tax dollars and you capture the tax dollars is by having people stay.
Instead they go to Spanish Fork and.
Is the one by Walmart? I thought it was supposed to be. Getting.
I'll believe it when I see it.
So I think, here's the deal, Blair brings up the lots that have the massive back. And we talked about limiting, are they gonna build an accessory dwelling unit that's like twice the size of the actual home, because they have
And some of those houses
15,000
are
square
older.
foot lot with 1,000 square foot home on it, and now they want to put a 4,000 square foot ADU out back.
Yes, so do we say that it can't be bigger than
Then
the
the primary, I mean,
Yeah.
because that's like, I'd be torn is down there, yeah, they have a small home, but would it be appropriate to have another 800 or 1,000 square foot?
And then they'll move
Unit.
into the ADU because it's bigger.
And it'll be
down there.
newer, brand new, and then they'll rent the house out front and be like, and then parking, I think you gotta have at least 4 parking stalls. I hate parking, I'm sorry, but I'm like, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have a young couple living back there or something else with 2 cars. I'm like, I think you gotta have at least 4 stalls.
So the council actually said the same thing.
I was like, if you're gonna do it detached,
Okay, yeah, it would have to be solid surface.
Yeah.
Would gravel count as solid surface? Heavily
Well, that
tampered.
depends on, but generally, no, it has to be all.
You know, the question I had. Codes cover us.
So they would have to meet building code. The council was not keen on that. The council actually was not keen on allowing for additional height. Because, and the justification for that was if you're in the rear yard already closer to the property line, if you build up, then you're looking into, which, okay, the reality is you live in a city, people are gonna see in your backyard. So what they choose to see is up to you, like, but that was a concern. And the reasoning behind the larger setback, because if we set this up you know, if I drew an X up there, considering the junction of four properties, you know, so like four corners type thing. If currently we went with the 5 feet, then you'd be 10 foot from each of those new dwellings. So you could have essentially 4 new dwellings in that little area back there. And so that's one reason that they encouraged a little bit larger setback from the side and rear. And to make sure that there was no PUE issues, public utilities.
What about distance from the primary house? Has that had discussion of how close or how far to be away from the house?
So building code, well, currently it has to be at least 3 feet.
3 feet.
I mean, if you want your renters to be more than, I mean,
I just wonder if people with smaller lots, they stick it 6 inches away. Yeah.
but I think that's a good discussion.
I think we should limit height. And I actually like the ones that are above garages. I think those sometimes are the better looking ones.
It's a really good use of space.
Yes.
Then it goes back to if you're gonna go taller than 18 feet, then it has to be set back as far as the primary structure so that you have.
And height is calculated a little bit differently in Payson. It's not just to the roof line, right? Let's complicate things even more.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, because a height is counted by the midpoint of the roof, of the peak of the roof, and then the roof line at the eave line itself.
Wow, interesting.
So if your roof is at 25 feet, but your eave line is at 20 feet, then the height of your structure is actually 22.
Interesting.
So if you do a 12 pitch roof, you can really,
Yeah, you can get a tall roof, yeah.
you can get up there.
Yeah.
For the less that you have, sorry, you don't get
Yeah.
height bonus. You also don't, you know, break your leg when you're up on your.
Yes, so to play devil's advocate on the height a little bit, if you attach the structure, even with a breezeway or an awning or something that connects the ADU to your home, then it's the same as the home. And so then you could have it, I think it's 35 feet is our height.
But then if you
But
meant
then you're subject to the.
that's why I said, if you said we want to go taller, you just have to meet the setback
That's true,
of the
but
building
then you would
lot.
only need to have 8 feet, so it's only another 3 feet from that side property line. It would need to be though, I think it's 25 from the rear.
That's correct.
But I mean, again, people could accomplish something very similar by skirting it out.
There's always gonna be those people.
Yes.
Like I said, yeah, that limits occupancy. Well, or in the structure itself, it's a 1,000 square foot unit, I mean, that's big enough for a bit.
And I think it cannot be bigger than the primary
Right.
residence. Up to so many square feet, as long as it's smaller than the primary residence.
So yeah, either primary residence or 1,000 or 1,200
Yeah.
square feet, whichever is smaller. So, cause yeah, I could imagine some really big houses going in there on those deep lots and.
And can we do anything with the outside? I mean, I would love it if they all look like that, but you know they won't. Can,
They're gonna look like a container, but they're really.
yeah, that's what I said. Shipping container.
No,
Yes.
Robert's been said that.
Get containers, get ADUs, get.
That looks like that, that's red with legals on it.
Well, have you seen the one they're building over by the field house there in Salem? Containers.
Yeah.
So is there anything in the code that, you know, you can't be bright orange or, I mean, no, is that?
No,
Okay.
not for, because this is still considered single family. And we cannot regulate design standards.
If it was in an HOA, then they could.
Well, then the HOA
Right.
could regulate.
Yeah. Yes,
I could paint.
it's. Breast
Barbie
cancer
pink,
awareness.
you
day.
wait,
I
you
love
wait,
it.
Barbie pink is gonna start showing up and
Yeah.
So-
That I think you can say pretty easily. That it, yeah, you can't just put a container in the backyard. And the other. Oh, and see, I would love to be able to say, oh, the market will take care of it. But when the market is $1,800 a month for a 2-bedroom unit, everybody's looking for a way to reduce that.
Take care of it.
Well, I appreciate that we continue to talk about dwellings because of the fact that, you know, housing is a necessity. And so we can determine eventually what, you know, our price is for however much we want, if we want to have such a dwelling. But to be naive enough to just say, it's not gonna happen here in Payson is just like you said
Naive.
before, very naive to not see that there is an opportunity, once we get these people to stay, of somewhere that they are proud of, that they want to stay in, and help our tax base and keep them here. And then they can drive to Spanish, eat whatever they want, and then they come back here and live in quiet.
So timeline, what are we looking? Are we trying to have this, is this like trying to do 2 to 3 months? This is a year? What is kind of the vision?
Testing the water.
How much, you had citizens reach out asking about this?
We haven't taken this to anybody yet.
I mean, but you haven't had phone calls saying, hey, can I put an ADU? Yes, you.
Oh, we get
Yes,
calls
that's what I'm
about
wondering.
ADU.
Yes.
Do we get them about detached? Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some people reaching out wondering if they could do that.
Well, I say all the time.
I think we need to,
Okay.
to make a list of the concerns here, whether that be square footage.
Square footage of the units,
Placement.
setbacks, height.
Height.
So basically
Parking.
everything I had up there.
Lot
Yep.
coverage, yeah.
Lot coverage, parking.
Yep.
Appearance.
And the calls aren't coming from like an area code in China, right? I mean, I'm just going straight up, I mean, we would learn what those international codes are if we start getting.
Oh, yeah. No, these are just regular people
Yeah.
wanting to know.
But again, I still think a remove accessory dwelling primo should have separate utility connections from the home.
Separate for all utilities.
I think so, yes. And I know that's another pain.
I would defer to
The
those
homeowner,
specific utilities, like, you know, sometimes it's nice that the utility is in the name of the homeowner, so I can
Oh,
get
sure.
paid. So,
if that starts happening, then do they have to have a separate address? Because it's like, oh, we're on a
They
separate.
do already.
they
With
do
a half,
already.
with a half.
When they're permitted.
Is
But
it just like
now what
B?
does trouble go there on their ADUs there, because most of them, you know, if you're renting a house, you have to go get a permit through the city.
Same thing here. Yeah.
And again, code enforcement, you know, I mean,
So Provo actually had, this one I know, they had a lengthy discussion about detached accessory dwelling units, and to my knowledge, at the last kind of check-in that I knew about, it didn't pass. Even though I can take you to several.
oh, yeah.
Do you foresee the possibility in the future, like, because we're not intending this, but people put in ADU and then they want to subdivide it and make it its own
Well,
lot, or
You could do that, but it just has to meet the requirements of the lot size for the zone.
So if
But
you
frontage
create-
would be a,
But if it's in the back and they have no access to the street, that's not possible.
they couldn't
Wanted
create a
to
bunch of
build.
flag lots after the fact. They could not do that.
Well, they would just have to make sure that they meet the strict regulations of the zone as far as creating a lot. If they're doing a flag lot, then they have to have at least 20 feet of frontage on the street without affecting but then they would still have to have the amount of frontage required for the zone, for the lot that's remaining.
Which the bigger
You can't
lots,
create a
the
non-conformity.
bigger lots would be the ones having, bigger ADUs. So my fear is, I'm glad Kathy brought this up. I think maybe we should put in there, if you do an ADU, you cannot rezone this as a flag lot, because we could have a lot of extra flag lots.
Could they build it, like, have a house with a garage and you do an ADU that's another house with a garage, like driveway? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out this. Does it have to have a driveway? Can it be without a garage and no driveway? Is it,
Yes.
so how
so-
do they act? Like, I bring in my groceries in, how are you getting your groceries in?
Walking
Through your
around
living
the
room.
house, right?
Well, so like right now, and this is something that we would have to talk about as well. If you have like a regular house with an attached garage driveway in the front, we would consider that 4 off-street parking spots, right? 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway. We would, that would be okay, probably. You could build your detached unit in the back, and then they could just park there and walk into the back, however that owner sets that up. But I don't know if we want to go to the extent of specifically regulating access and proximity and stuff like that.
I'm picturing my lot because I have enough space I would definitely, but like, ooh.
What about a minimum square footage for an ADU? Is that part of the
Well, by
conversation?
state law, you have to have, for the dwelling itself or the lot.
The dwelling.
Oh, that's again up to you.
So I don't know if we,
House.
can we have like
8 by 10.
a shed? I mean,
Well, yeah, there needs to be a minimum and a max.
yes, there needs to be a minimum.
And could they do 2 tiny houses?
No, just one.
No, just one, okay.
And Robert,
What's
when
your
we,
lot?
when we talk about writing maximum, minimum, these types of things, planning commission would make recommendations, but city council would have to ratify it, and they would be the ones that would say,
Yeah, and we know how they are, they do it.
there we go, kid, I was waiting. Someone had to say Brian one more time before he. Okay, because that's, what we, of course, we do know city council will accept everything that we tell them starting. Actually, as far as just where we give feedback, right? And we allow, we don't allow, we just provide our input.
Yeah,
As
planning commission is a
additional-
recommending body.
Yeah, so we're additional citizens that have the same kind of caring concern, that the city council does. But, we don't get roasted as much because we're just looking.
You don't
at-
have constituents.
Well, I'd
That's the
say
big deal.
I have
the planning.
concerns, I don't know about the caring.
the-
That's what gets you.
I'd say.
So industry wise, 300 square feet is kind of like the threshold of what would be considered a normal unit, like a dwelling unit. Below that is what we call a micro unit, right? That I lived in Hawaii. I've seen lots of micro units. Trust me.
We know the kind, we know exactly what you're talking
When
about.
I lived in Hawaii, my wife and I shared a 457 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment, and it was enormous.
Right.
We loved it. It was awesome. Like, yeah, if you really want to decide, if you're having trouble in your life, thinking about what's really important in your house,
Good.
move to a small section of it, and you'd be so shocked at what you can get by without. But that 300 square foot, if you are looking at a minimum, I would probably, in my professional opinion, recommend that direction. here's my devil's advocate question to that. Why does it matter?
So it's not a tough shed.
And really, so you're providing a livable space to whoever you're renting it to. I mean, affordable housing, you live in a
Right.
5x5 box.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
so they're not living in a van
No,
down by the river.
Does it need to specify that it's gotta provide running water,
So it's going to be a
utilities,
Dwelling unit, it has to have
bathroom?
the necessities of a dwelling, right?
Yeah.
Like a kitchen, a bathroom, and a space, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a jail cell has the toilet and sink, and you know how big that is.
I mean, I've seen places that have
And you said
their
micro,
cooler and
right?
a microwave, and that
You've said a micro, I've stayed at a micro hotel, like in Twin Falls, and it was all of those things that were smaller than my closet. And
the bare bones.
But it is helpful to make suggestions as far as what we think would be livable. But then again, it's tough. We go back to what we've talked about all along. It's fine with whatever we talk about and then accepted by the city council, but then as far as enforcement, that's another part that just has to be factored into how we're gonna enforce this stuff once we make these decisions.
And remember, to that point, we're dealing in things that we're making the laws for people that follow them, right? There are always gonna be the people that don't, right? I don't lock my doors to keep the people that are gonna steal my car out. I lock my doors to keep my kids from getting in there and playing in there. That's the reality. So, hey, there are always gonna be people that are going to forget about the rules. They're gonna steal them every day.
Tyson Adam.
Yes, there's a long list, right? And
There's
so
a naughty list, right?
I don't say that to say we shouldn't worry about that, because it's really, really important, because enforcement is essential for our city to function well. But when it comes to the size of a unit or whatever, we want people to come into compliance. We want people to actually come get a building permit for this stuff. We want to know about it. And when we over-regulate things that maybe don't need to be, then we just discourage information. We discourage them from coming and saying, I want to do this. You can come inspect this and make sure it's safe and livable.
Right.
So do we have an idea then, go back to timeline, follow-up discussion next month, 2 months from now? Because
Oh,
obviously
good question.
everybody's kind of new on this, so it's like if we had time to sit and think about it and come back with, hey, if you were to have an ordinance, these are the things, more specifics you'd like to see, or.
So I kind of started drafting based off what the conversation that we had at city council last week. So I kind of started there. I'm going to take your input and maybe work on this. This is the code section that we currently have for internal dwelling units. I would just add this as like 221 and kind of same structure, but then start putting in some of these additional requirements, things like that. So I've started that process. My basic intent was to have this conversation tonight to prove to the state that we're working on doing this kind of stuff.
I see you putting Georgia that.
Yes. So the reality is,
Getting audit.
and the reality is that right now, I share this with Ryan, many of you know this, but in order, so when the state legislature changed the law regarding moderate income housing and reporting, they also changed it to say, if you are not in compliance, we're going to fine you, and you have to put money into the Olin Walker Affordable Housing Fund, and your city will not be eligible for UDOT money. Right.
Big stick, huh?
It is a very big stick, especially since Payson City just got $100 million to do an interchange.
Right.
So
Motivation.
we need to be in compliance.
Merry Christmas.
One last question for me is on the occupancy of an ADU. One person, one bedroom, or can you shove this place full of 50 people?
Generally, it would fall under the same occupancy that we normally have in the city, so a family. Or is it 4 singles?
4 singles separate from the immediate family.
Yeah.
So is that the north
Four
interchange
single
that they got the
people.
money for?
So you could have 4 single people in here, or you could have.
And then again, continue to adhere to the no temporary, not the Airbnb still being a stipulation. We don't-
Yeah, currently we don't.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd love for us not to bend from that because, again, you get close to the Olympics, then, I'm sorry, the Olympics again, then that would be tempting to enforce.
There will be a lot of temptation, and
Right,
there will be a lot of doing it.
right, right. So
Like,
we could all
That's
become
the reality.
deputy cops to go out and help out at night, all dressed in black, like, FBI stuff. I'm just suggesting.
We'll
our
talk to,
attire
we'll
for,
talk to
you know,
Chief Bishop about deputizing.
I don't want to get
I don't
shot
think
over
it's
an
gonna happen.
ADU, so, yeah. Yeah.
No. Kevlar, so our shirts for next year would be Kevlar.
They give rewards to the.
Oh, yeah. No. Those were the ones that were enforcing COVID. It's like, hey, you put the mask over your nose and mouth. Nobody wanna get COVID because of you. Those are the fun people that helped.
Snitches get stitches, that's what I love.
I don't know why, Ryan. Not old ladies, man.
Well, that's all I have for you tonight. I appreciate the conversation. You'll be hearing more.
Well, good, we're ahead. I mean, and
yeah.
motivated.
I think the other reality is that the state legislature, I mean, all of you have seen the news lately, like they're desperate to provide housing. I have some personal opinions about that.
It said that if you want to make affordable housing, the state is not putting funding out to the cities to say, you know what, we'll give you the money if you'll put the utilities in out to these properties out here, and then you offer the developers.
That was
money.
my feedback section. When I submitted the modern income.
But you can't just hold a big club up and say, go do it, and the city's like, we don't have any money to go do that, you know.
Like Tancom keeps saying, one of the big problems that we're experiencing right now is the state keeps coming out with numbers that we are deficient in housing. Right now it's 28,000. They're saying that we need 28,000 units. The cities in Utah County alone right now have more than that entitled. But we can't make people build houses. This is America. We cannot make them build houses.
We
And
have to
so
offer some incentive.
it can't just be the cities. I mean, clearly there are market forces at play.
But that's why I was thinking, we just put them all in the bowl, right there by the food.
Yeah, we have units ready to go. We just need people to build them. Salem has like 8,000 approved units.
Double the
Because
size
now-
of their city.
And they have a McDonald's now, so they've got everything.
So clearly.
I had a Dollar Tree.
That's right.
And the fizz, and again, it's great, fun.
Just no access. Can't get there.
Well, yeah, no, yeah, see?
Yeah, sure, that's all I have.
Okay, any final comments?
Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a final comment. if
Oh,
that's
sorry.
Okay, I just want to thank you guys for your wisdom and your goodness. It's rubbed off on me. I really am thankful for the thoughtful discussions that we've had in here. And I have a lot of respect and admiration for the planning commission, now having served on it for a short time. But on the council, I'm going to take you guys' recommendations very seriously because you guys, I've seen the conversations we have in here. You guys are thoughtful. You think about it. You're not worried about getting reelected. You really say what needs to be said. So please keep having those conversations and being honest and looking out for Payson City. And please just protect home ownership and property rights. That is the crux of the American dream. And they are under attack. And so the ability for the middle class to build wealth comes from owning real estate and homes. So please protect their ability to do that and look after the city, and I will try to do the same, but I have the utmost confidence in the planning commission. I really do. You guys are wonderful. So please keep it up, and I'm grateful to have served here. Thank you.
When is the swearing in of the new?
So that, I'm glad that you brought that up. So Ryan will be sworn in to be a city council member on January 3rd.
Sworn in and not sworn in.
He can vote both.
Get sworn in.
Then you'll be-
Yeah.
Right, in order. So that means that we'll have a vacancy on the planning commission. The mayor, I believe, has someone in mind already to fill that seat. That seat will be appointed for the duration of time until it's time to actually have new planning commission members, which is April. So whomever is appointed will be appointed to serve until April. If they choose to, go through the process, they can submit their application to be reappointed to the planning commission.
Who else is up?
So the ones that I'm so glad, because we checked today, it's
Me?
Kathy. So in April, Kathy and Kit will have the opportunity, if they so desire, to continue.
So we'll have 3 slots then, so also
Because of
mine will
yours.
be up as
Yeah.
well.
So there will
Okay,
be 3 slots.
in April.
Whichever takes yours to, that's the last
That's right.
Yeah.
2 years of yours. and
3
then-
months.
Yeah.
3 months, yep.
Yeah, I think. I
Well,
came
but
in-
whoever takes
I
the seat
came in and filled about a year.
Goes just till your next spot will be up as well. So it doesn't become a full 3-year term. It's just the following 2 is what it ends up being. The seat still comes up at the same time, but
So things to look forward to.
With that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
yeah, motion second, all in favor by yes?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't mean that you can leave.
Is this like Hotel California? You check in, but you can never leave.